It's the biggest Syracuse-Pittsburgh football game since when exactly? Technically, I guess you could say 1991, because that's the last time that Syracuse and Pitt both walked on the field ranked. It's the kind of game where what's on the line is pretty clear. Syracuse needs to keep pace if it wants to play for a spot in the ACC Championship game. This team has said they are contenders and want to be contenders going into the month of November. And we all know one of the biggest scars from the Dino Babers era, and since Syracuse came into the ACC, even before Dino Babers was the head coach here, they were 20-45 in the second half of the season under both Babers and Scott Schaefer before him when Syracuse got into the ACC. Typically what happens is down the stretch, last 6 games of the year, Syracuse starts to fade because of depth issues. So that is something that Fran Brown is fighting here. But if Syracuse can beat Pittsburgh on Thursday night with the whole country watching, the best way into the Associated Press Top 25 is to beat someone in the poll. Syracuse had the second most amount of others receiving votes last week. They had 15. You beat Pitt on national TV. There's no question you're going to be ranked next week. In terms of what kind of game this could be, well, you have two teams that are both ranked top 12 offensively in the country, and Pitt is higher than Syracuse. So let's call a Zach Morris timeout and discuss that for a minute. That's incredible to think about, because when you think about Pittsburgh, not that they haven't had good offensive teams. That Pitt team that won the ACC a few years ago had a great offense, right? But typically Pittsburgh is grinded out, physical. You think of defense. You're not thinking of a top 10 offense in the country. But Eli Holstein, Desmond Reed, that offense under Pat Narduzzi and the 6-0 Panthers has been statistically and eyeball test one of the best in the country. That Cal game last week or before the bye was a low-scoring, grinded-out physical game, more typical of what you see from Pitt. But make no mistake, this Pitt team can score, they put up yards, and it is going to be a challenge for the Syracuse defense. We all know how good the Syracuse offense has been under Kyle McCord. They are 12th in the country in terms of total offense. McCord has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country statistically. He is top 3 in the country in a lot of categories. Syracuse is one of the best teams in the country on third down because Kyle McCord is one of the best quarterbacks in the country on third down. And if you don't want to take my word for it, then take Pat Narduzzi's word for it.
If you're not a Pitt fan, if you're not a Syracuse fan, but you're a quarterback fan, you should get your tickets now because that guy's going to play in the National Football League. We watched him on third down the other day. I don't know if he throws an incomplete pass, especially on third and medium. He throws darts. He's accurate. He's smart. He knows where to go with the ball. He will be the best quarterback that's walked in to play us in this stadium in a while. So we got a great chore ahead for us.
High praise there from Pat Narduzzi. By the way, Pitt 6-0 for the first time since 1982, when Dan Marino was still the quarterback at Pitt and was getting Heisman votes, not only that year, but the year prior to that as well. And, of course, Marino went in that famed 1983 draft, and I think he did okay in his NFL career, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Syracuse has won back-to-back road games for the first time since 2012. It's rare that they play 3 in a row on the road at all, but the last time Syracuse did win 3 straight games on the road was 1996. Syracuse has 2 wins over ranked teams this year. They beat Georgia Tech early, second game of the season, went to Vegas, baby Vegas, and beat UNLV in that incredible overtime game. So a shot to not only get into the rankings by beating a ranked team, but this would be, if Syracuse can win, the 3rd ranked win in a single season. The last time that Syracuse did that was 1998. So look, you don't need all those stats and that history to tell you what kind of game this could be, what's on the line in this game. This is a matchup between two teams, both coming off bye weeks and both want to get to the ACC Championship game. Look, Clemson and Miami certainly seem to be on a path to face off here, but there's still a lot of football to be played. There's still a second half of football to be played. One of our last pods was the mid-season awards that came from our Syracuse Sports insiders, who are always great with their insight, their questions, their comments, their opinions, and we'd love for you to become a Syracuse Sports insider today. That means you text me, I text you, the entire group gets text information, breaking news, inside opinions, I always tell you what day it is as we record here. Today is National Nut Day, so I gave my Syracuse Sports Insiders the top 5 nuts. Big fan of pistachios over here, but lots of delicious peanuts, for example. You can't go to a baseball game and not crack open some peanuts, right? So we do fun stuff like that as well. Syracuse Sports Insiders help each other out by getting tickets to games. It's become kind of a ticket exchange. I had a guy text me today, hey, I can't use my tickets to this game. Ask the insiders. I want that group to experience that. We had the great meetup in Vegas. That's just the beginning, folks. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider means that you get it all from me via text message. Cut through the clutter of social media. Get it sent direct to your phone. It's just $3.99 a month, but you can try it free for 2 weeks. Just text the word orange to 315-847-3895. Hit that link as well if you're watching on YouTube. You can see it there. Join subtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Very easy to sign up to become a Syracuse Sports Insider. You like how I slipped the plug in there as we were talking about the Syracuse-Pitt game? But look, it's a game where it's all on the line. We know it's on the line. We know the trends. But I'm struck by how different this game is from the Syracuse-Pitt game just a year ago at Yankee Stadium, right? The 100th anniversary game, and Syracuse had to scrap by in that game with Dan Villari and LaQuint Allen and running an offense that was reminiscent of the 1920s at Yankee Stadium, but they did it. Here's that one last trend, though, that all Syracuse fans know all too well. Syracuse has not won a game in Pittsburgh since 2001. They just can't go to the Steel City and win. So Kyle McCord and company can snap that streak and keep the path going. It does not get easy for Syracuse. They'll come back home, take on Virginia Tech. Not an easy game. There's still a trip to Cal on the schedule. Miami closes out the year. This is not an easy run for Syracuse upcoming here. UConn is mixed in there. That's a game, frankly, Syracuse should win, but we've got a whole second half of the season to go, and this Pitt game could really go either way. Joe R. says, speaking of our great Syracuse Sports Insiders, Thursday's game will come down to time of possession. When the Q says the ball, they have to score touchdowns, not field goals. The best defense against Pitt will be keeping the ball away. Kathy L. says, really, though, what are the chances Syracuse beats Pitt in their stadium? I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm just looking for realistic odds to adjust my expectations. And Kathy, this is one of those games where I had to file my prediction, which you guys know I hate doing, but, boss says you got to put a prediction in there. But I stared at the screen and I wrote probably 5 or 6 different descriptions of what I think this game could be. Look, Pitt is the type of team that I think will burn Syracuse if they've made some of the mistakes they've made prior. They've had missed tackles. That has been an issue. Look, the NC State win, Syracuse traded turnovers for touchdowns, and that is a credit to the defense for stepping up for an offense that was struggling to execute in the red zone. Turnovers, touchdowns, 21 points off turnovers. That's clutch. Syracuse goes on the road. You'll take a road win in the ACC any way you can get it. They beat NC State 24-17. But special teams, we'll see if the bye week corrected some of those mistakes they've been making there. That's been a consistent issue. Missed tackles. You missed Desmond Reed, and he is second in the country in all-purpose yards and is one of the best players Syracuse is going to face all year long. It's a little mistakes like that that can pile up. Another thing I'm really interested in this game is Pat Narduzzi loves to blitz. He loves to blitz and leave his corners on an island. Well, McCord, as I noted earlier, has been one of the better quarterbacks in the country on third down, and he has been great against pressure. You heard how Pat Narduzzi feels about Kyle McCord. So knowing this too, Pat Narduzzi's 9-1 after a bye week. He's had some time to think about how he's going to line up and come after Kyle McCord. Unfortunately, Marlowe Wax will not be back for this game. We think when Fran Brown was asked about it on Monday, he said he's trying to get back on the field, but did cite next week as an option. I would still keep an eye out on warm-ups on Thursday, and of course we'll be doing that for you. It wouldn't stun me if Marlowe was on the field, but it seems the timeline is tipping more towards Virginia Tech than Pittsburgh. Zede Haynes is still not back with the team. I asked Fran about that. He kind of joked around with me. He said, hey, when Zede Haynes comes back, we'll send up balloons. There'll be a party, but he's still dealing with a personal issue. So for those of you that have been asking about that, Zede is not quite back with the team. But Kathy, I think it's going to come down to, and I know this can be said about any football game, but who makes less mistakes in key situations, because Pitt is the kind of team that will eat you alive if you make too many of the mistakes that Syracuse has been making. And I still think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be like a 38-31 type of game. Marty says this game is as big, if not bigger, than leading up to the game at Clemson 2 years ago. That loss changed the trajectory of the season, and I think this game could have that same impact. There's another great advantage of being a Syracuse Sports Insider. You get your comments highlighted on this podcast and our Syracuse football postgame show. We'll be doing it live Thursday night after Syracuse takes on Pittsburgh, and your comments, your opinions, your thoughts, not only welcome during the game on the text line, but we highlight the best on our postgame show and Syracuse Sports. Exclusively, by the way, we do not highlight comments from social media. Only our Syracuse Sports Insiders get shout-outs here on the podcast and the postgame shows. So we're talking a lot of football. But do you know there's a basketball exhibition game on Saturday? Oh, yeah. It's coming, folks. Beautiful day in central New York as I record this. It's about 80 degrees. So not typical almost basketball season weather. But ready or not, here it comes. So recently, Syracuse basketball had its annual media day, which is always fun. You go, Adrian Autry kind of does his thing, and then the players are just available, and they kind of scatter, and we chase them around and ask them all kinds of questions. So I went to media day, and I did just that, and I whittled it down to about the 5 or 6 best things that I heard at media day. We're going to do that coming up. Oh, yeah, it's basketball time, folks. The crossover is here. So that's coming up, but I want to remind you that we are highlighting your original music here on Syracuse Sports. All the information is in the show notes on how you can get in touch with me, and we can highlight your original music on this podcast. And today we're going back to a Syracuse Sports favorite, one of my new favorite bands, period, let alone music we've highlighted on this show, a local band here in Syracuse called Hell Yes, So What. They've got they're still making music videos, folks. Yeah, MTV doesn't play videos anymore, but of course you can find them on YouTube. They've got a new video up for this song. It's called Pocket Knife. So let's listen to a little bit of this. The entire song will be featured at the end of the podcast. And if you want to send your original music to me, we would love to highlight it here on Syracuse Sports. How about a little Hell Yeah, So What? And then we're going to talk some hoops and the best thing that I heard at Syracuse Basketball Media Day. Yeah, baby, ready or not, here it comes. Syracuse basketball, just around the corner, friends, as football is midway through the season, but we've got an exhibition game on Saturday at the JMA Wireless Dome, another one the day before Halloween, and then before you know it, Syracuse and Lemoyne are going to be tipping off the 2024-25 season. John Rothstein was in town the other day, keeping an eye on the Orange. We sleep in May, right? So we're getting there, man. Hoops is knocking on the door, and that knock is getting louder. I hear you knocking, and you can come in. So I went over to Syracuse Basketball Media Day on Friday, which is always fun. You know, Adrian Autry addresses the media, and then the players are just there, and you get an hour to kind of bounce around and talk to as many players and coaches and people associated with the program. You've got new people around the program now. Alex Klein is the general manager, and kind of that expanding staff that Syracuse basketball has in the transfer portal and NIL era. And it's always interesting to hear what these guys think of the upcoming season. And of course, they all think they're going undefeated and they're going to win the ACC, and everybody looks amazing at practice, and you hear some of the same things. But that's not what I'm going to play for you here. We're going to cut through the clutter, and I'm going to give you the best things that I heard at Syracuse Basketball Media Day. So I want to start with this. Syracuse was picked to finish 11th in the ACC by the media. I've said it on this podcast. I've said it other places. They're going to regret that. Syracuse is going to finish higher than 11th in the ACC. They finished tied for 5th in the ACC last year. Mind you, I get it, a down year for the ACC, and the ACC has really got to flex its muscle and get more than 4 or 5 teams in the NCAA tournament, and I do think Syracuse has a shot, a strong shot, to be one of those teams. If you're asking me here in late October whether I think Syracuse is going to be an NCAA tournament team this upcoming season, my answer is yes. The players certainly noticed that the collective media of the ACC picked Syracuse to finish that low in the league, as Lucas Taylor, Syracuse, a lot of new faces, 7 new faces between the transfers and the freshmen that have come in, and one of them is Lucas Taylor, and let's just say the Orange certainly knows.
Winning, going back to the tournament. That's our goal. We're trying to get back to the tournament. That's been the buzz around here all year since we've been here since July. So that's all our goal every day. That's what we got the 11th in the locker room right now, preseason. So we're trying to get back to where Q is supposed to be.
So you guys noticed that?
Yes, exactly. We did.
They picked you to finish 11th. Okay, so that's in the locker room.
Yep, on everybody's locker.
It's on everybody's locker.
Yeah.
Everybody's got it hanging in their locker, a little added motivation for the Orange in the preseason before they tip it up here. Now, getting back to the tournament, Syracuse has not been there in 3 years. That is, frankly, an eternity by Syracuse standards. To go 3 full seasons and not make the NCAA tournament, that is the ever-present thing for Syracuse. A couple more thoughts on that first from JJ Starling.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a real thing. Just given the fact that the guys that we have right now, we feel like we're in a good spot with each other, and that's definitely something that we expect, tournament appearance.
Adrian Autry certainly was asked how this team gets back to the NCAA tournament this upcoming season, and he went with the simple formula.
Well, I know the one thing that I know how to get back to the tournament, and that's win enough games. I do know that, right? So we got to do a better job of that. I thought last year, I thought it was 3 or 4 games that I think we could have secured those. I think we would have been more in play than what people would have thought. I really think that. We would have made it, I don't know, but I think we'd have been close. But I think we got to win games. I mean, I think you can, Ken Palm, all this stuff. You got to win games, and you got to win non-conference games, and you got to schedule teams, and you got to give your team a chance. And I think we've done that with our non-conference. We got some great non-conference opponents, and we have to win. We have to win some of those games, if not all, and then go and win in conference, because I do believe this conference is loaded this year. There's no doubt about it. I think everybody will see that this year. By the time January hits, I just feel like when I look over it and I look at these rosters in our conference, this conference is no joke. And I think the narrative will change this year. But the short answer is you got to win games, and you got to win the right games, and you got to win enough games. But winning,
it's the short answer. It's the right answer. It's the accurate answer. And it's a 4-month process. It used to be you win 20 games, you make the tournament. That's no longer the case. Syracuse won 20 games last season. They went 20-12. They didn't necessarily knock on the door of the tournament, but Autry's right. 3 or 4 games swing Syracuse's way. They're in the tournament. At the very least, they're in the conversation for the tournament. And look, they played a tough schedule in Maui last year. They've got some tough non-conference games coming up this year. Tennessee notably early in that schedule, but a bunch of non-conference games, and that puts more pressure on you going into the ACC. You know exactly where you stand. Okay, well, they won these many non-conference games, so they've got to make up for it by this way. Yeah, he kind of brushed past Ken Palm and all those things, but Ken Palm, the net rankings, everything, it tells you exactly where you stand and how the tournament is put together. And this is why you schedule the way that you do. I mean, it's great that Syracuse is playing Lemoyne to start off the year, but Lemoyne is like 300-something in the net rankings. It does nothing for you in terms of your NCAA tournament resume. So those games that do matter in the net rankings, you got to win more of those games. It's as simple as that. Autry was certainly asked about Tony Bennett, and the reverb from that continues. Tony Bennett, adding to a list of some of the biggest names in college basketball to walk away in the last 3 or 4 years. Now, Jim Boeheim was as much as he fought against this for a long time, was close to retirement age. Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, these guys have been around forever. But to see a Jay Wright from Villanova walk away kind of makes you put that eyebrow up and say, what's going on here? Tony Bennett is 55 years old. Tony Bennett has won a national championship. Virginia's, frankly, had a lot of NCAA tournament failures as well, a lot of early exits from the tournament, notably losing as a number 1 seed and the first to do so. But he's won a championship, and Virginia has been one of the standard programs in the ACC. They've always been one of the more aggravating teams to play in the ACC, and that's a credit to Tony Bennett. I think one of the greatest things Tony Bennett ever accomplished was willingly getting college basketball players in this day and age to slow the game down, to grind, to play defense, to use the shot clock. I mean, these guys want to go up and down the court. They want to put together highlight reels for TikTok. And Tony Bennett's like, no, we're going to play the Norman Dale Hoosiers offense, 5 passes before you shoot and the whole thing. That's one of the greatest things he's ever done. Right before the season, he steps down and did not really hide the fact that he was stepping down because of the modern era of college basketball, which I've got mixed emotions about. On one hand, I don't want a coach out there whose head is not completely in the game, right? But at the same time, it's like, did you just figure this stuff out? You just signed a contract extension over the summer. You knew everything about the game and what it was when you signed that extension, and to walk away right before a season. Look, this is a little trick that coaches do in order to assure that somebody on their staff gets a shot. Because say Tony Bennett walks away in April, right? Virginia, and it would behoove Virginia to do this, should do a national search. When Jim Boeheim walked away, we all knew that either Autry or Jerry McNamara was going to get it. But I felt like John Wild, and this is no offense to Autry or anybody, I just felt like Wildhack should have known what he had. Syracuse is a prime job in the ACC. Do a national search. See what kind of people would apply for this job. Some of the best certainly would have applied for the job, but they went down the road that they did. And we'll see if Autry can keep Syracuse on the path here, and getting back to the tournament is an important piece. And they're recruiting well. All seems to be on track here, right? But if Tony Bennett walks away in April, Virginia, it would behoove them to do a national search. By doing it now, he puts Virginia in a spot that they've got to, elevate his assistant and let him get a shot. So I'm rambling now, but Autry was asked about this, and I was curious what he thought. So what I asked Adrian Autry here was, what does it say about college basketball when Tony Bennett says that's enough for me?
Interesting question, because Tony and obviously those coaches, they have experience of what college was, and now it's a big change and it's a different change. And again, I don't want to speculate, about why he stepped away. You read, but again, I think it's just a change. It's a change, and change is hard. Change is difficult. Change is, everyone has to get used to it. And I just think, I don't know if that's 100% it, but, the change is, to be able to coach a certain way and have success a certain way, and to be able to recruit and attract and maintain talent. And now, with all the new rules, I'm sure it had to, it probably changed the way he coached or the way he, thought about things. And most older coaches, for me, I came into it like this as a head coach. So, this is the job that I have, and so I have to either, get with it or lose my job.
Pretty honest answer there from Autry about this is the here and now. This is college basketball as we know it. And Autry came in at a very interesting time when that transition was fully underway, but had been on the Syracuse staff doing it the air quotes old way for a while before being handed the baton in one of the more turbulent times in the history of college basketball. So a couple more interesting things that we heard at Media Day. Eddie Lampkin, the new center, right? We heard all about Lampkin. He was one of the first commits to Syracuse out of the portal. There was a little bit of a back and forth in this. It was about late May, right? And he went dark on social media. People were wondering what was going on. The coaching staff couldn't get in touch with him. Was he getting flirted with by other programs? Was he going to back out on his deal at Syracuse and go somewhere for more money? There was a lot of doubt about that. He flies to Syracuse. I remember the scenes. He's shopping on Marshall Street and kind of renewed his commitment to Syracuse, if you will. Mike Waters and I wrote about that over the summer. Had to be reassured of some things, but he's here. And he's wearing the 44, so that's going to be a sight you're going to have to get used to seeing again as a Syracuse basketball fan. And let's just say Eddie does not lack confidence.
They're getting a defender, the best talker in the country, a great teammate, a hard worker.
I say just the way I could pass, the ability to be able to pass how I pass. I think I pass like a point guard. So I just say like more as in like just doing whatever that my team needs me to do, really. That's all. I say that I'll bring to the team. Everything my team needs me to do, I can do.
Now, it's funny that Eddie says he passes like a point guard because we're going to talk about the guy who's going to be the point guard coming up here in a second. But that is an encouraging thing to hear. Look, I think Eddie Lampkin's going to want to score. There have been lots of videos that you can see on Eddie's social media. He works on his shot, and he's got a shot. He can shoot it. I don't want to see Eddie Lampkin shooting too many threes, frankly, but he can shoot from around that foul line area. So he is a threat to shoot. But the fact that he takes pride in passing the ball, he knows he's good at passing the ball. Chris Bell, kick it out to him on the wing. Elijah Moore, Chapa with the elbow, the target on his elbow, right? Donna DeTota wrote a great story about that, which you guys should check out on syracuse.com. 2 ace shooters. JJ's going to be a better shooter, right? If Eddie takes pride in how he passes the ball like a point guard, that's all you can ask for here. Team guy, what do they need me to do? But it's interesting what he said in there, too, about the best talker in the country. So we're going to have to get a Eddie Lampkin mic'd up moment, listen carefully, and watch him during games to see what kind of junk he's talking with the other teams. Now, he says he passes like a point guard. I got to tell you guys, one of the names I heard a lot of buzz about at Media Day, both on and kind of off the record and talking to people there, was Jaquan Carlos, who is the point guard that Syracuse brought in from Hofstra. He was described to me by a couple assistant coaches and other people that were there. They all kind of came to the same conclusion. Old school. He is an old school point guard that loves to distribute the ball, that loves to do what is asked of him. He's not an offensive minded player. He can get to the rack. He can score when asked to. But you look at his assist numbers at Hofstra last year. He knows that's the role he's being brought in here to play. Distribute, pace, move the ball, and find the open guys. So it's pretty encouraging when you have 2 guys that I think are going to be in the starting lineup. And people ask me this question all the time, so I might as well just put it out there now. I think the starting 5 for this team is going to be Carlos, JJ, Chris Bell, Donnie Freeman, and Eddie Lampkin. That seems to be the starting 5 that makes sense. Autry, I don't have the clip here, but he said on Media Day that's going to be important for this team to get into a rotation. Injuries put a cramp on that last year. Naheem McLeod goes down. Monir Hema, remember him, was in the rotation. He goes down. Benny Williams didn't get injured, but that left the team, which put a crimp on going deep down the bench. I feel like coaches say this every year. I feel like Autry means it and wants to go 10, 11 deep on this team because he can. You have a Jair Davis coming in. We mentioned Lucas Taylor, Chance Westry, the mystery of Chance, who's fine, by the way. He had a little bit of an illness that kept him out of practice, but we talked to him at Media Day. He said he's on track. It's not serious. He'll be ready to go. So what does he contribute? I mentioned Moore, McLeod backing up, Lampkin, etc. Kyle Cuff. You have Peter Majstorovic, who they brought in, who John Rothstein, was effusive in his praise, having seen him practice and the kind of player he can be in the rotation. This could truly, and I know I said this last year, but again, injuries and other circumstances factored into this. But this could be one of the deepest teams in terms of rotation that we've seen at Syracuse for a while. Now, one thing I'm going to disagree with that John Rothstein said is he thinks there's a lot of pretty good players, but not a great player on this team, who's a go-to guy on this team. And I'm putting a lot of my chips in the middle of the table on this guy, and I get he's a freshman, and he's got to bulk up, and he's got to get used to the college game, something he admitted on Media Day, by the way, and all those things I'm supposed to put an asterisk on here. But guys, Donnie Freeman's a star. Donnie Freeman is going to be a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Donnie Freeman is going to electrify, and I get that Cooper Flagg is the name when it comes to freshmen in the ACC because he's unbelievable. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft. And yeah, I defer to him. But Donnie Freeman is going to be one of the most electric freshmen in the league and in the country this year. And if you don't believe me, maybe you'll believe Carlos when he talks about
he's a one of a generation talent. He's going to be special and go and be where you want to be one day.
Can you go a little deeper on that?
Kid is an NBA player. It's just that simple. Donnie Freeman is going to play in the NBA. I mean, his length and athleticism, his ability to do on the court at that size, I mean, that's all you see in the NBA in today's game. So he definitely got all the tools.
Tell me that didn't put a little chill up your spine. That's from a player perspective. Other people at Media Day told me that too. When I said Donnie Freeman, I kind of got this reaction. Like, that's telling to me. When people do that, we're like, oh man, when they kind of like take a deep breath, whoo, that guy's good. Every single person that I asked at Media Day about him gave me a reaction on par with that. So, per what Rothstein said, and if you view this team the same way, a lot of pretty good players, but are there any great players? I think that's actually encouraging, that this team is a team. It's more of a unit, and the ball will be distributed. And I'm saying all these things in late October when the season comes, as Autry said himself on Media Day. Everybody's got a plan till they got punched in the face, right? That great Mike Tyson quote. But this does feel like a team. They have done some things which they've actually put out on social media. So, you know, some of that stuff is manufactured. But what I mean by that is chemistry. How do 7 new guys integrate themselves and accelerate that chemistry on the court? Well, they've been doing a lot of things off the court together that not only we've seen, but I've heard about as well. That's how that chemistry flows onto the court. You got to spend time off the court, get to know each other, and hopefully all that flows onto the court. And our first chance to see that is going to be Saturday afternoon at the JMA Wireless Dome. Basketball exhibition, Clarion at the Dome. Syracuse football playing Thursday night, as we know, against Pitt. So not doing anything on a Saturday afternoon in Syracuse, New York, and get your first look at the 2024-25 Syracuse basketball Orange, a team I believe is going to make the NCAA tournament, and it's certainly going to finish higher than 11th in the ACC, as they all have that taped in their locker, as Lucas Taylor told us here. On the best things I heard at Syracuse Media Day, some of the best things I hear daily come from our Syracuse Sports insiders. Join us. Be a part of a group that cuts through the clutter on social media, and you get the very latest Syracuse information, news, opinions, tidbits, trends, everything on my mind, your opinions and feedback solicited for this podcast, highlighted here on this podcast. And I'm just scratching the surface of the benefits of being a Syracuse Sports Insider, all sent right to your phone. You can either text ORANGE to 315-847-3895 to try it free for 2 weeks and then join for $3.99 a month, or hit that link that you see on your screen on YouTube, joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Thanks to our Syracuse Sports Insiders for all their great insight as always. So Thursday night, Syracuse and Pitt, the post-game show. I know we'll be seeing your texts during the game. We'll keep you updated on everything on the text line during the game and highlight some of your best comments here on the post-game show. I'm not sure if it'll be Emily or Chris. Emily and Chris are both going to be at Pittsburgh, so one of them will be joining me afterwards. It's all on the line for the Orange. Win, you are in the top 25. You snap a losing streak that goes back to 2001 in Pittsburgh, and you stay on the path to at least be in the conversation to play in the ACC championship game. It is all on the line. Thursday night with the whole country watching. We'll see how Syracuse responds. So the post-game show to come after that. For now, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of Syracuse Sports. Make sure you subscribe and follow on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode of Syracuse Sports. Thanks for hanging with us today. We appreciate you supporting the show. We appreciate you supporting those that put out original music, which we love to highlight on this program. And one of our favorites here on Syracuse Sports, featured again today, Syracuse's own Hell Yeah, So What? Let's listen to their great song, Pocket Knife, in its entirety here. And if you want your music highlighted here on Syracuse Sports, all the information is in the show notes.